Hi everyone, this is Angel with Tech Tutelage, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to build an EC2 instance on Amazon Web Services. To begin, you're going to have to go ahead and log into your Amazon Web Services console, and from there, the first thing that you want to do before you build your instance is go ahead and select the region that you want your instance to be built in. In my case, I'm going to stick to US West Oregon, but you can pick any region available to you. Just be aware that depending on the region, the pricing may be a little bit different. You can go ahead and click on EC2, or if you don't have it and you're recently visited, you can go ahead and click on services and get to it from here. Once you're in your EC2 dashboard, all you need to do is go ahead and click on this orange launch instance button, and that will bring you to your launch instance wizard. Here you can give your instance a name, and I will call mine Debian 11 since I'm going to install Debian on it. And then the next thing you want to do is select your operating system. Now you can pick some of those available operating systems from here, from the quick start, but if you want to look for more, you can click on this browse AMIs button, and from here you can pick more AMIs. Like you can pick your own if you have your own ones, or you can choose from the marketplace, or you can even get some community ones, which I don't really recommend since you don't know what people put in them. So again, in my case, I'm going to stick to the quick start ones, and I'm going to go ahead down here and select the Debian. Debian is free tier eligible, so if you're in that first year of being Amazon customer, you will be able to use this one on the free tier instance. So the next thing you want to do after you pick your operating system is go ahead and pick the architecture that you're going to be using it. So in my case, I'm going to keep it to x86, but if you want to try the ARM, you can go ahead and select it here. Once you have that chosen, you can go ahead and click on select. And now that you have your operating system picked, the next thing that you want to do is pick your instance type. You can click here on the drop down. That way you can get access to all the instances available to you. Again, if you're in this first year and you're eligible for free tier, you can select the free tier eligible instance. In my case, I'm just going to pick the cheapest one because it's just a demonstration and I don't really care much about how powerful my instance is. So I'm going to get this one here, the T2 Nano with 1 CPU and half gig of memory. So I'm going to go ahead and select this. And once you have your instance type selected, you can go ahead here and build yourself a key pair. If you have an existing key pair, you can pick it from here, but make sure that you have that private key for it, because otherwise, if you select one from here and you don't have the private key, you won't be able to connect to your instance. Now you can go ahead and click on create new key pair if you're like me and you don't have pre-existing one and you want to create a new one. And here you can give your key pair a name. I'm going to call mine AWS-key. And here you can pick pair type. I will keep it to the RSA, and the private key format, I'm going to keep it to PEM, but if you're going to be on the Windows and you're going to be using PuTTY, you may want to download the PPK. That way you don't have to convert the PEM to PPK later. So next thing you want to do is go ahead and click on create key pair, and that will download your private key onto your local machine. In my case, I'm on the Mac, so that will go on my downloads folder. On the PC, I believe the same thing goes into your downloads folder, or maybe it will give you an option to put it someplace else. I'm not sure. The next thing that you want to work on is your networking settings. So by default, you will have one VPC in each region that has 3 different subnets in it, and we're going to keep all that to the defaults. But if you want to take a look, you can go ahead here and click on edit, and you see your available VPCs. Again, as I said, default, you're only going to have one, and you're going to have 3 subnets. And it doesn't really matter which one you're going to pick since you're only going to have one server. But in the future, if you're going to be adding more servers and if you want them to be on a different subnets, this is where you choose the subnet that you want your servers to go in. The next thing here is auto-assign public IP. If you keep this to disable, your server will only have a local private IP, so it won't be accessible from the internet. So in our case, we're going to want to enable that. That way we can connect to our server via SSH. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to auto-assign public IP to enable. So the next thing that you want to do is work on your firewall. So by default, you're going to only have one security group that's called the default security group, and that pretty much doesn't give you any access to your machines. So you're going to want to create a new security group. That way you can SSH into your server. So in our case, we can just rename this and maybe call it SSH. And you can give it a description here. You can keep it to what they have or what I like to do is just give it the same name as the group SSH, or maybe be more descriptive here if you want to remember why you did this. Down here, they already have it preset for you for SSH. It will allow SSH TCP traffic on port 22, and the way they have it set right now for source type, it will be from anywhere. As you can see down here for source, they have 0.0.0.0/0, which is the internet. So any connections that come from anywhere on port 22 will be allowed. Now, if you want, you can go ahead here and change that, and you can select a custom IP, or if you want to restrict it to only your IP, you can click on My IP, and this will automatically pick your public IP, and it will only allow SSH traffic from your public IP. But in my case, again, I don't really care about it, so I will leave it the way it is. In description here, again, you can just put some information about it. Once you have all this done, you can go ahead and work on your storage. So here you can change the size of your storage. In my case, I will leave it to 8 gigs. I don't need more than that. But one thing I want to point here is, depending on the size of the disk that you get, your performance of your disk will change. So if we go ahead here on advanced and I click on this drop down, you can see that if my size is 8 gigs, I only get 100 IOPS of 3000 available with the GP2. So if you want to get higher IOPS, you need to get higher disk size. So for example, if you want to get all the 3000, you're going to have to go all the way into 1 terabyte. So again, if you want to use the maximum IOPS, you're going to have a large disk, which will cost you more money. And again, if you need it for some reason, you wouldn't have to do it that way. So you have high performance disk. Now, if you don't need to get all the 3000 IOPS, if 1500 is enough for you, you can just choose the 500 gig disk. Or if you're like me and you don't really care, just go with a minimum size. And there is one more thing here that you can do, is you can change the type of the disk that you use. So in my case, I'm going to use that general purpose SSD, which is pretty good disk for what I needed. But if you want, like, let's say cheaper storage, you can just use a magnetic standard one, and that will be slow, but it will be very cheap. So again, I'm going to leave it to GP2, 8 gigs. And down here, you can choose to either delete your disk on termination or save it. I like to put this on yes, unless you know that you want to save your disk. That way, when you terminate your instance, you won't accidentally forget your disk on and you will be charged for it. Then the next thing is encryption. I don't really care about encryption, but if you want, you can go ahead and encrypt your disk. That way, you know that the data on it is encrypted and saved. The next thing that you can do here is you can go ahead and add a new volume if you need one. So again, I'm not gonna need a second volume, so I'm not gonna add it, but it's pretty much the same as the first one. You can pick size, delete a termination or no, encryption, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. And once you have selected your disk size, you're pretty much ready to start your instance. There's some more stuff down here in advanced details, but I'm not going to talk about it today. If you want me to expand on it, let me know and I can make another video about it. So once you have everything that you need selected, you can go ahead and start your instance by clicking on this orange button here, Launch Instance. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And once you see this green success, this means that your instance was started successfully. And so what you can do is go ahead and click on View All Instances here, and that will bring you to all of your instances. And you can see that, like right now, I have this Debian one is the one that we just started. It's up and running and the status of it is initializing. And here you can see I have an old instance that has been terminated. And it may take a couple of minutes for your instance to be ready and accessible. So until that's happening, I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple things here that are kind of maybe interesting to you. So if you select your instance down here, you'll see a bunch of information about it. So under details, you can see your public IP, private IP, just kind of general information about your instance, which AMI are you using, what type of operating system it is, and a bunch of other helpful things. Now, if you go under security, you're going to see your security group. And like right now, you can see we have one security group and only port 22 open to the world. But from here, you can go ahead and go to that security group and do some changes if you want. Under networking, you can see some network information like your public, private IP and that kind of stuff. Then you can go to storage, and here you can see your volume and the size of it and the type of it. You can also go to status check. That will show you the status of your instance, which you can also see up here. And then in monitoring, you can see some graphs here of your CPU utilization and networking and all that kind of stuff. And And right now, since it's just a fresh new instance that we just started, there's going to be no data here. But if you want to see some metrics for your instance, you can do it from here. And then under tags, right now we only have one tag called name, but here you can add more tags if you need. So I'm going to go back to details, and from here I'm going to go ahead and grab my public IP, which is going to be the IP that I'm going to use to connect to my instance from the internet. Now, one thing to remember is that this public IP here, this is not a reserved static IP, or the way Amazon called them, they call them elastic IPs. So this is not an elastic IP. So what that means is that this IP will eventually change on you. So let's say if you turn off your instance and you start it a few hours later, this IP will probably change. So just be aware of that. If you use your instance and at some point you can't connect to it, come here and check the IP, because it's possible that the IP changed. You can get reserved IP. It's called elastic IP, but I'm not going to go into that in this video. Again, if you want me to make another video on elastic IPs, let me know in the comments and I can do that. Now, you can go ahead and refresh your screen from here to make sure that your machine is not ready. Sometimes they get stuck in their status. Like for example, now it says initializing, but that doesn't mean that it's not ready yet. And what I like to do is usually after a couple of minutes, even though the status doesn't show the machine is ready, I go ahead and try to connect to it, because many times the machine is actually ready. So one nice thing that Amazon have here is if you go under actions and you can go and click on connect, and it will give you instructions on how to connect to your machine if you don't know how to do that. So for example, in my case, I want to use an SSH client. I can just follow this, 4 steps instructions here, and that will show me how to connect to my instance. All I have to do is go ahead and copy and paste all this stuff from here, and I will be able to connect to my instance. Now, there are a few other options here to use. For example, you can use the serial console to connect, the session manager, but to use all these, you're going to need to have some special setup on your machine, which I'm not going to go into in this video. Again, if you want me to make another video about it, let me know. So right now we're going to use the SSH client. So I'm going to go ahead and click here, and I'm just going to follow the instructions on the screen. So the first thing they say is open your SSH client. If you're on a PC and using PuTTY, open PuTTY. In my case, I'm going to go ahead and open my Mac terminal. And then from here, it tells you to go ahead and locate your private key. And I know that my private key was in my downloads folder. So I'm going to go ahead into my downloads folder. And then the next thing they tell you to do is go ahead and change the permissions on your key to 400. So I'm going to just go ahead, click on copy here, and I'm going to copy that command in my clipboard. And then I'm going to go ahead and paste it in my terminal. Oh, and it put these weird characters here that I'm going to kind of have to clean it up a little bit. I'm not sure why I did that. All right. And once I have it here, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and I have the permissions of my key changed. So the next thing that I want to do is go ahead and connect to it. So to do that, all you have to do is, again, just go ahead, copy this into your clipboard, and go ahead and paste it. And it did that again. Oh, that's kind of weird. I have to look into it and see why it's doing that. But anyway, you can clean it up a little bit if it does that weird thing to you as well. And once you have this entered, you can go ahead and hit enter. Here it's going to ask you if you want to add a fingerprint to your known hosts file, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to say yes here, and as you can see, I'm connected to the server that I just created. So there you go, we have our server up and running. So the next thing that I want to show you is, now that you know how to create an instance, I'm going to show you how to terminate your instance. So let's say you're done working with whatever you're going to be working on this instance and you want to terminate it. Well, it's very easy. All you have to do is go ahead and select the instance that you want to terminate, and then go up here and under instance state, and you can do terminate, and that will terminate your instance. It will give you a warning here that will tell you that your storage also will be deleted. If you remember, when we were building it, we selected that we want our storage to be deleted on termination. So this will give you a warning here that your storage will be deleted, and we don't care about it. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to terminate that storage. But be careful, because once that's deleted, there is no way for you to recover it. So if it's something important on your instance and you need to save that storage, go ahead, deattach it before you terminate your instance. So I'm going to go ahead and click on terminate, and my instance will change its status from running to terminating or shutting down or something like this. Let's see. Yeah, it says shutting down right now, and then eventually will go into terminating, and it will be terminated. Now, one thing that I always like to do is, even though it gave us the warning and it told us that it would delete the storage, I always like to go in and check on the storage to make sure that it actually got deleted, because I've had times where the storage actually actually did not get deleted because maybe I didn't set it to delete automatically on termination, and then it didn't prompt me and I just forgot about it and the storage was there and I kept paying for storage that I didn't use. So to check and make sure that after you terminated your machine, your storage is gone too, all you have to do is go here on the left under Elastic Block Store and click on volumes. And as you can see, I still see the storage here. So if I refresh, it probably would disappear. Yep, there we go. And it disappeared. But make sure you come here and you want the screen to look like this if you're not having any instances using any storage, or if you have any instances other than the one that you just deleted, make sure that they're the only ones that are showing here. Because again, even though your instance is terminated, if your storage is here, you're going to be paying for it. And that was pretty much it. I hope you found this video useful. And if you did, please click on the like button. And if you want to see more of my videos, please subscribe for my channel. Thank you for watching.